The gentlewoman from Ohio, Mrs. Beatty, who is also the chair for the Subcommittee on Diversity and Inclusion, is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman, and to the witnesses. I've been sitting here for this whole hearing and trying to digest the questions and your responses, and quite frankly, I'm trying to figure out what you thought your roles were as trustees and what you got paid for with so many of these widespread consumer abuses, the regulatory findings, and certainly the lack of effective corporate governance. Let me start with my question first to you, Ms. Duke. You took great pain in writing about your background in your testimony to us, more than I've ever seen in any other testimony. You reminded us that you started out as a part-time teller at a drive-through bank. You transitioned as a new account clerk. You take great pains to tell us that you were the second lowest paid employee and how you sat across from customers and how you put them first, how you worked your way up, how you became the first woman to chair the American Bankers Association, the Board of Governance, and how much you understood and knew about regulatory practices, that you were just stellar in this. Yet you act like you're a member of us. In your testimony, you also then say you were as appalled as the members of Congress with all of these findings and you didn't know how it happened. Well, that's appalling to me. And then I noticed that you then are the one that also agreed to Mr. Sloan's payment. The board decided that Mr. Sloan was worth more than $18 million in compensation, including a $2 million bonus. Despite all of this, Ms. Duke, you also drafted a proxy statement that you released to the investors stating the board decided to award Tim a cash bonus for 2018 as recognition for his substantial progress in changing the culture and business practices of Wells Fargo and building out a strong management team to focus on the remaining work to strengthen the compliance and operational risk. Now, with everything you knew, being paid, being responsible, and this background, and then we hear what they did, the abuses to consumers. Tell me why you drafted this statement, and did you really believe this, or did someone make you do this, or were you paid extra to do this?
Congresswoman, I joined the board of Wells Fargo because of the company I thought that
No, that's not my question. Tell me why you wrote this statement about him after all these things, and you were there, that happened before when you wrote this statement in 2018.
So we did not find that Mr. Sloan had any responsibility in sales practices. He became the CEO in 2016. We paid him no bonus for 2000.
No, I'm talking about your statement in 18. A lot happened as we heard Congressman Meeks read off all of the things that happened between both of your watch. And you can jump in, Mr. Quigley, if you want a response, since you were also there and certainly read and witnessed when she wrote this to the shareholders. Did you have any response? Did you feel this was misleading the shareholders at Wells Fargo?
There's no question that I read the proxy, and there's also no question
Do you agree with it, yes or no? Because
Yes.
my time, and I have a question for you.
Yes.
So you all think, despite now saying it's appalling, all that you've heard that has happened, even in 2018, you know what? This makes me feel that you are as irresponsible as he was in all of the things, and it is criminal that you are even sitting here. Mr. Quigley, let me follow up on Congressman Cleaver's line of questioning regarding a back-channel relationship between Wells Fargo and CFPB, specifically a political appointee of the Trump's administration. You remember the question. So, Mr. Quigley, you stated to Mr. Cleaver that you did not believe a back-channel exists. Yet in Appendix 3, which is already in the record of the majority staff report, there's an email from Acting CEO Alan Parker to you regarding this political appointment. Are you aware of that?
I did see the email in the report, yes.
And so do you still have the same response that you had after it, in quote, says political?
I interpreted the quote political as simply he was an appointee into the CFPB.
I'm sorry, my time is up, and I yield back.